Hey, just wanted to make a quick video here. Something that I've thought about, and I think it's relevant since I'm like a advice teaching kind of channel. People, when they give advice, they tend to give advice to themselves. What, what they should have done when they were in their shoes. In the past, if they ran into a similar situation. The issue with that is that that person is not you. They don't have your strengths. They don't have your weaknesses. They're not in your situation. If you do find someone like that, you're extremely lucky, right? And that is advice that you should really consider strongly. But most of the time, people are going to give you advice that would have been good for them to hear, not necessarily advice that's good for you to hear. And so you have to be really discerning when it comes to what lessons you're learning, right? Just because somebody got rich quick does not mean that you can get rich quick doing the same things. The market might be different. Their personality might jive with that strategy. Their geography might have enabled them to do that. There are so many factors at play when it comes to success and failure. And some of it's under your control, some of it's not under your control. What aspect of success is just being in the right place at the right time, doing the right things for that situation? A lot of it is, right? A lot of it is. You can't let that limit you, though, because with no action, there will be no result. So I think that's just something that you should keep in mind always whenever you listen to advice. And I think also when you give advice, I think that's also important that you think about, like, okay, I'm particularly strong at writing. Me personally, I'm very strong at writing. I'm not super strong with other things. So if somebody comes up to me and they are very weak in writing, maybe what would make sense for me if I was in their situation might not make sense for them in their situation. So I think that's just important to keep in mind. And hopefully you are very similar to me, because if that's the case, then I'll be biased to give you advice that's extremely relevant to you. But if that's not the case, then you need to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, right? Some of it is just mathematical. Some of it is gonna just be, how does the difference between your gross margin and your operating margin affect your ability to scale the business? Okay, like those sorts of things are more universal, but they're still going to be specific to different situations, right? So cost of goods sold, for instance, right? It could be high. Like you could have the same gross margin between two businesses, right? But one of them basically makes things more from scratch. The other one is basically just buying and reselling. The gross margin might be the same, but one of them has this huge manufacturing and input sourcing component. Things could be very different between the two. And so you always have to keep that in mind, that the person who's giving you the advice is not you. It's a different person with different experiences, and they're trying to map that onto your skill set, right? And so if you ever hire a coach or a consultant or something, you need to be really specific about that, I think, right? You need to be very specific. You say, this is where I'm strong. This is my situation in great detail. You tell me where you're strong. You tell me your situations. Let's make sure that there's actually a lot of alignment there. And if there's not, and there's a certain area where you're kind of making an educated guess, or you're saying, oh, this worked for me, blah, 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 you got to make sure that you take that with a grain of salt. So that's kind of it, short little video. I just think it's something good to think about. See you in the next one. Like and subscribe.